I've put together a short video on how I use my target dummies. These are magnetic target dummies that I've created, my little invention if you like, and basically what the benefits are of using these opposed to what we have been using traditionally as a target dummy. So most people will be familiar with something like this. It's just a normal straightforward dummy and it's got a white wrap on this one, or for example you may have wrapped your dummy in white tape. So the idea is we give the dog a strong visual target to run to, so it's a real strong visual stimulus. Obviously white is a good colour for dogs to see, they like contrast, they respond well for it. So why this big magnetic dummy? Well, the reason being is that these are great when you're doing close work, but unless you've got a valley shaped piece of ground, these start to lose any real value when you're looking at cover. And what we wanted was a dummy that we can use that is in cover. For example, here in Norfolk I would be in sugar beet. If you're up in Yorkshire area, for example, you might be on the moor. Most people have got white grass or access to white grass. Bracken is another place where you might be wanting to still use a target dummy. So these are obviously used for training dogs to go onto blinds. So the principle is that we have a stand so we can elevate this dummy, and like I said, it is magnetic. So we basically just place the stand into the ground, place the dummy on top, and there we go. We've now got a very strong visual target for the dog to run to. And these can be seen depending on obviously what your ground is, but you can see these at least up to 200 yards. So the reason that they're very big is so that they create that really strong visual pull. They're very lightweight, much lighter weight than a normal standard dummy, and the idea is what we want the dog to do is to have confidence. So when you're training onto blinds, so something really strong like this, they see it from, if you've worked on locking on, what we call locking onto a dummy, seeing a target dummy, for example, if you started with a smaller one and then you've got them locking onto that at short distance, they will see this and recognise what this is about at long distance. So we wanted to get the dogs going distance, and the idea is that they start to utilise the landscape. So eventually, once the dogs are working really well on big white target dummy, we then progress onto our green ones. So again, it's still magnetic, so it still sits on the stand, still has a magnetic pull, but now we can just apply white tape to it depending on how much visual stimulus you want to create. So you can put more bands on, for example, or less like this one. So the dog still has to scan the horizon or where you're looking to pick out the dummy, but now it's less of a visual aid. The idea is eventually we would take the visual stimulus away whatsoever, and so that the dog starts to pick its own landmark to run to. So I recommend when I'm doing any of this training with my clients that we place these in front of something that has got like a landmark, like a big tree or a bush, so that the dogs start to learn to pick out their own landmarks, posts, rail fence, something like that, so that you're creating the habit of going long until they literally reach their point on the landscape that they've picked out. If you see dogs that have been trained through this method, you'll see that they have what we call a very fixed eye gaze, so they know where they're going. They look solid. If the dog's eyes are flickering, it means they don't have that real strong visual impact to run to, and they haven't had that sort of training. So I made these for myself. I've been training with Guy Bennett for many years now, and he came up with the first visual stimulus big dummy I've seen. And what I wanted to do is to create something myself that was that kind of impact, but also something really safe. So if you notice, the stand is much smaller than the dummy, because I want, when the dogs, if you've got a drivey dog, what they want them to do is to hit, if they hit this at speed, which they do, because they'll enjoy it, I wanted it to be as safe as possible for a dog to take something off what is metal. So the metal is much smaller, and obviously the white visual target is really obvious for them to pick. One thing I would say is when I'm working with my clients, you do need to teach dogs to pick these, because these are really big dummies. They're a bit like the equivalent of basically picking a hair, the width of them. And so all I do to start off with is just give them a mark with this, and then I stand the dummy up just on the ground and get them to pick that again, and then I place the dummy onto the stand and get them to take the dummy off the stand. I've done a little demonstration video for you with my dog Norman, so that you can see how it works and how he tackles them. Any questions, please just message me. These are made to order, so I don't have just a big stock of them at the moment. I've just sold quite a few. We've sold about 300 since we started making them 3 years ago, and I'm just starting to get another lot in production as we speak. But just message me if you have any questions or queries or would like to place an order. Thanks.